The Dead Sea Scrolls, Discovery, Debate, and the Search for the Earliest Judaism Chapter 1. The discovery that rewrote biblical history. The spring sun had already begun to bake the limestone cliffs overlooking the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea. The landscape seemed almost lifeless. Jagged rocks rose above a sea so dense that almost nothing could survive within it. Wind carved the cliffs into strange formations, and hundreds of caves pocked the hillsides like dark, forgotten eyes. For centuries, shepherds wandered this wilderness, rarely suspecting that one of history's greatest archaeological discoveries lay hidden within its silent cliffs. In 1947, according to the most widely accepted account, a young Bedouin shepherd of the Ta'amire tribe climbed among the caves while searching for a stray goat, hoping to determine whether one cave might shelter the missing animal. He threw a stone through a narrow opening. Instead of hearing the dull thud of rock against earth, he heard the unmistakable sound of pottery breaking. Curiosity overcame caution. Climbing into the cave, he found several tall clay jars. Some were empty. Others contained bundles wrapped in linen that had remained untouched for nearly 2,000 years. Inside the wrappings were leather scrolls covered with ancient Hebrew writing. Neither the shepherd nor his companions understood what they had found. To them, the brittle leather looked old, but not necessarily valuable. They carried the scrolls away and eventually sold them through antiquities dealers in Bethlehem for relatively small sums. What began as an ordinary search for livestock had unexpectedly reopened a window into the religious world of the Second Temple period. The discovery arrived during one of the most turbulent periods in modern Middle Eastern history. The British mandate over Palestine was ending, tensions between Jewish and Arab communities were escalating, and the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 would soon transform the region. Against this backdrop, the scrolls entered a fragmented antiquities market where scholars, collectors, dealers, and governments competed to secure them. Some of the first scholars immediately recognized their extraordinary importance. The handwriting appeared ancient, far older than any known Hebrew biblical manuscript then available. If authentic, these manuscripts would push surviving copies of the Hebrew Bible back by nearly 1,000 years. That possibility seemed almost unbelievable. For centuries, the oldest complete Hebrew Bible available to scholars had been the medieval Masoretic manuscripts, copied around the 10th century CE. Historians assumed earlier copies must once have existed, but none had survived. The newly discovered scrolls appeared to originate between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE. Suddenly, scholars possessed direct evidence of how biblical texts looked before the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. The implications reached far beyond biblical studies. The scrolls offered an unprecedented glimpse into Jewish society during the period immediately preceding the emergence of Christianity. They revealed debates about law, prophecy, purity, the coming Messiah, the end of history, angelic beings, and the struggle between good and evil. Instead of presenting Judaism as a single unified religion, the manuscripts exposed a landscape of competing interpretations and communities. Yet from the very beginning, certainty proved elusive. The first challenge was authenticity. Could these manuscripts truly be ancient? The antiquities market had long been plagued by sophisticated forgeries. Some experts initially questioned whether the scrolls might be medieval creations or cleverly fabricated texts designed to deceive collectors. The ink, leather, and handwriting all required careful examination before extraordinary claims could be accepted. Over the following decades, multiple lines of scientific evidence gradually established their antiquity. Radiocarbon dating placed many manuscripts between approximately 250 BCE and 70 CE. Paleography, the study of ancient handwriting, confirmed that the scripts belong to known stages of Hebrew writing from the late Second Temple period. Chemical analysis demonstrated that the ink composition matched ancient practices, while the leather and papyrus reflected materials available in antiquity. These independent methods consistently reinforced one another. By the late 20th century, the overwhelming scholarly consensus accepted the scrolls as genuine ancient manuscripts, while isolated fragments discovered later have occasionally proven to be modern forgeries, particularly among pieces that surfaced on the private antiquities market after 2002. The original cave discoveries from Qumran are regarded as authentic by virtually all specialists. Even after authenticity became widely accepted, another mystery remained unresolved. Who wrote them? The earliest and still most influential explanation linked the scrolls to the Essenes, a Jewish sect described by the 1st century historians Josephus, Philo of Alexandria, and Pliny the Elder. These ancient writers described a disciplined community living near the Dead Sea, devoted to communal property, ritual purity, strict religious observance, and careful copying of sacred texts. Excavations at nearby Qumran uncovered communal buildings, ritual baths, writing tables, inkwells, and cemeteries, all of which seemed compatible with such a community. The sectarian rules preserved among the scrolls also described a highly organized religious group with striking similarities to the Essenes described in classical literature. For decades, this /Essene hypothesis dominated scholarship. Yet dissenting voices emerged. Perhaps the most influential alternative came from historian Norman Golb, who argued that the scrolls were not the library of a single sect but rather the remains of multiple libraries removed from Jerusalem before the Roman siege of 70 CE. According to this interpretation, Qumran served not as a monastery but as a military outpost or industrial center, while refugees hid manuscripts from many different Jewish groups in the surrounding caves. This hypothesis explained the remarkable diversity of literary styles, theological perspectives, and biblical traditions found among the manuscripts. A related view suggested that the scrolls reflected several communities rather than one. Instead of a single Essene library, the caves may have accumulated texts copied across Judea over generations. Some scholars have proposed that Qumran functioned as a regional center where manuscripts were collected, studied, and preserved, rather than solely produced. None of these alternatives has fully displaced the Essene hypothesis, but each has influenced modern scholarship. Today, many researchers adopt a more nuanced position, while the sectarian documents likely originated with a community connected to Qumran. Not every manuscript necessarily did. The collection appears more diverse than originally assumed. The controversies extended beyond archaeology into popular culture. During the latter half of the 20th century, accusations arose that a small circle of scholars intentionally delayed publication to suppress evidence that threatened Christianity or Judaism. Books and documentaries claimed that the scrolls contained explosive revelations about Jesus, secret histories of the early church, or doctrines deliberately hidden by religious authorities. These allegations captured the public imagination. The reality proved considerably less dramatic. Publication did proceed far more slowly than most scholars now consider appropriate. A relatively small editorial team controlled access to many fragments for decades, creating understandable frustration within the academic community. Critics argued that this monopoly delayed independent research and fostered unnecessary secrecy. Eventually, under increasing pressure, photographs of the entire collection became publicly available, allowing scholars worldwide to examine the evidence. When broader access finally arrived, the anticipated revolutionary secrets failed to materialize. The scrolls transformed understanding of Second Temple Judaism but did not overturn the foundations of Christianity or Judaism. Instead, they revealed that many ideas once thought unique to early Christianity, including expectations of a coming Messiah, ritual washing, communal meals, apocalyptic visions, angelology, and scriptural interpretation, already circulated among diverse Jewish groups. Before the time of Jesus, Christianity emerged not from an intellectual vacuum but from a vibrant and contested Jewish world. This realization represented the true revolution. Rather than rewriting history through sensational discoveries, the Dead Sea Scrolls deepened it. They exposed layers of religious diversity that had previously been invisible. They demonstrated that the Hebrew Bible existed in multiple textual forms before later standardization. They illuminated communities waiting for divine intervention while struggling against foreign domination and internal corruption. Above all, they reminded historians that the past is rarely as simple or unified as later generations imagine. Nearly 80 years after their discovery, the scrolls continue to yield new insights. Advances in multispectral imaging recover faded letters invisible to the naked eye. Artificial intelligence assists in identifying individual scribes by analyzing handwriting. DNA extracted from parchment helps reconstruct which fragments originally belonged together. Each technological advance refines the picture, but none has solved every mystery. The caves overlooking the Dead Sea have surrendered many of their secrets, yet not all. Some scrolls remain fragmentary. Some caves may still conceal undiscovered evidence. Many historical questions remain open, inviting future generations to continue the search. The greatest legacy of the Dead Sea Scrolls is not that they answered every question about the ancient world. It is that they revealed how many questions had never before been asked. Contrarian perspective: the history of Dead Sea Scroll research illustrates an important principle of historical inquiry: consensus should not be mistaken for certainty. While the Essene hypothesis remains the leading explanation, competing theories continue to identify genuine weaknesses in the evidence. Likewise, sensational claims of hidden Christian doctrines are unsupported by the manuscripts themselves, yet the long delay in publication undeniably contributed to public suspicion. The story is therefore neither one of conspiracy nor complete scholarly agreement, but of an evolving investigation in which new methods continue to reshape understanding without fundamentally overturning the authenticity or significance of the scrolls. That will be a substantial work, and I'm happy to do it. To keep the quality high and avoid exceeding response limits, I'll write it as a book-length series, with each chapter being fully developed rather than abbreviated. The Dead Sea Scrolls, Discovery, Debate, and the Search for the Earliest Judaism Chapter 1.